All right, we're not gonna hold up too much longer. I just want to welcome everybody to the February 11th, 2021 Public Safety Meeting for the Atlanta Planning Advisory Board. I'm Chris Brown, your chair. We meet every second Thursday, so this will be our regularly scheduled meeting. For the month of February, we will meet every week for the month of February, as we have a lot of things going on around public safety. So we will meet every week. If you see the agenda, you see the email and contact information for the Atlanta Planning Advisory Board Public Safety Meeting. The email is as follows: atlpublicsafety@gmail.com. The website is safeatlanta.org, and you can find us on all social media platforms under ATL Public Safety. Atlanta Planning Advisory Board Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee recommends on matters regarding public safety generally the Department of Police Services, Department of Fire, Department of Correction, Department of Law, Office of Emergency Management Services, and city courts. Licenses issued under the police powers of the city, all matters pertaining to findings of discrimination under the human relations ordinances, and all matters pertaining to the drafting, implementation, and supervision of all penal ordinances. I just want to welcome you guys. I want to take the time to identify Ms. Norwood, who's been a long time civil servant here in the city of Atlanta, for joining us. We also have Mr. Terry Ross, who is also our APAB office. What committee was it, Terry?
It's the committee on APAB.
Committee on APAB, that's right. It was committee on council, and we changed it to committee on APAB. I don't see anybody else that's from the executive committee, but I want to welcome you all here, and I want to take the time to see who we have in the building. We've been doing this now for a number of months, and we really believe in community engagement and getting people involved. If Ms. Brinkley could start out, so you had your hand up. If you start off with just introducing yourself and what NPU you're from. Ms. Brinkley.
Hi, my name is Susan Brinkley. I live in Peoplestown. Can you hear me?
I can.
Just wanted to thank you for having the meeting. I'm here to ask for a shot spotter to be funded at D.H. Stanton Park, and that's my whole deal. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Jones.
I'm Jason Jones. I live in Adair Park, new to Atlanta, so it's kind of trying to get involved with the community.
Welcome, welcome. What NPU do you know?
Not sure.
Okay, definitely. We'll make sure that we locate your NPU, because we try to make sure that we connect people to their neighborhood NPU. If you would go, well, if you put your information in the chat, I'll make sure I follow back up with you to get you that information. Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Just to introduce.
Oh, hey everyone, Terry Ross here, West End resident, member of MPUT, the West End Neighborhood Development, West End Merchants Coalition, and like Chris pointed out, I chair the Atlanta Planning Advisory Board's Committee on APAB.
Welcome, welcome. Ms. Blunt.
Hello, Melody Blunt. I am a resident of Ashview Heights, and my NPU is T. Glad to be here, first time knowing about this, so I'm excited. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Norwood.
I'm Mary Norwood. I am in NPUB in Tuxedo Park, and I chair the Buckhead Council of Neighborhoods. And I'm running for District 8 City Council.
Well, welcome, welcome. Ms. Woods.
Hi, good evening. I'm Veronica Woods. I live in Castleberry Hill. That's in PUM. And this is my first meeting as well. And I'm just glad to be able to tune in.
Well, thank you for joining us. Mr. Pennington.
Hi, my name is Kyle Pennington. This is my first meeting. My fiance and I just bought a house in Mosley Park, so just looking to get involved in in local community and see where we can help out.
Gotcha. Welcome. Mr. Foster. Mr. Foster? Maybe he's stepped away for a second. Zach, is that Khan?
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Zach Nikonovich Khan. I've lived in Atlanta for about 30 years, I guess. I grew up in Collier Hills, which is South Buckhead. I lived in Midtown for about 7 years, and now I'm in Sylvan Hills, which I believe is NPU X.
Got you. Last name Spencer, Grayson Spencer. Grayson Spencer. All right, we go to Ms. Bridget.
Good evening, I'm Bridget Wiles. I'm with APD Urban Planning and Management, not associated with the police department. We're an urban planning firm here based in Atlanta. We are working with, on behalf of the city and the police reform initiative, and was engaged to do the community engagement work associated with that initiative. So thank you for inviting us, and we're just here to listen.
Yep. Thank you for coming. Ms. Lester.
Good evening, everyone. I am Latoya Lester. I live in the Westview community, part of NPUT. I am the public safety chair for Westview as well, and happy to be here and get to know everybody.
Well, welcome, MPUT in the building. Stephen Gonzalez.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Name's Steven Gonzalez. I also work for APD Urban Planning and Management. And of course, we are working on behalf of the City of Atlanta for the Police Reform Initiative, doing community engagement. But aside from that, I am a resident of Peoplestown, and I'm part of MPUV. But that's on my personal side, not my professional side.
Gotcha. Ms. Baldwin.
Hello, good evening, Aretta Baldwin. I am in Washington Park, MPUK, and I am also the District 2 representative for Atlanta Public Schools. And this is my first time attending, and I'm excited about the information to be shared.
Definitely. Welcome. Mr. Bill. Walter Bill.
Yeah, forget which MPU I'm in. I have attended one of their meetings. I'm very concerned with safety in Atlanta, and I'm not sure if with what y'all do as far as safety, if y'all address issues with the Atlanta Fire Rescue Department, but I'm very concerned with some of the serious problems within that department as far as staffing, as far as retaliation by public officials to the firefighters that are preventing them from speaking up. The fact that we have numerous fire apparatus that don't work, such as numerous ladder trucks that the aerial ladders don't work on, that create to me a serious issue with public safety. The staffing shortage is causing companies to go out of service many times to where you think you have a fire station right down the road and it may be out of service because of the staffing problems. But also, I'm also concerned with much of the other safety issues related with the police department, that are being addressed.
Yes, sir. Have you taken time to fill out the contact form that's on the website?
I have not yet, but I will.
Yes, sir.
I just saw the meeting notice today.
Okay, so you will make sure we follow up with you on that, and we'll address that later on in the meeting. Adam K.
Yes, hi. I'm just wanted to listen tonight. I'm a resident of Buckhead. and just wanted to stay abreast of everything that's going on.
Got you. Phone number 0272.
Hello, my name is Robbie Huff. I live in NPUI, and I'm happy to be here.
Welcome, welcome. Ms. Porter?
Hey, I'm Crystal Porter. I live in NPUW, and I just saw the notice, so had a minute and thought I'd see what you're all about.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Welcome.
Thank you.
Ms. Brinkley, did you see that have your hand up, or was that from earlier? It may have been from earlier. But welcome. I want to welcome everybody to the APAB meeting. It's great to see a different group of people. We have some return visitors. Like I said, again, this month we will meet every week. I want to take the time to put the agenda back up because it's also in this meeting because last week we kind of went over the legislation 21-R-3006, which was a resolution by Council Member Antonio Brown, Joyce Shepherd, and the rest of the crew, basically to conduct a feasibility study and compile a comprehensive recommendation regarding the establishment of the creation of the Department of Public Safety and Wellness within the city of Atlanta that will formally coordinate and direct public safety and wellness efforts and for other purposes. And so we spent a lengthy part of last week going over that legislation and entitled what it entailed. As you know, public safety has been a big thing here in the city of Atlanta, and I wanted to make sure that we took time to give input to some of the things that we wanted to see. We went over it. It would change a number of things in terms of non-emergency changes within public safety. So I just wanted to take the time right now to see if, in terms of issues and taking in issues before moving through the agenda. So if anybody had any specific issues that they wanted to look at, and it's kind of how we formed the agenda. If it wasn't anything that was kind of current for the week of, we kind of take input from residents. Just kind of rewind it back a little bit. We kind of changed to how we're doing public safety. We created the public safety subcommittee, which is going to be created to help support the NPU levels. It kind of mirrors after the ACRB and how you have a range of NPUs tied to a representative. And that's how we're going to try to maintain connectivity with the NPUs and make sure that the issues from the local communities are heard in a bigger platform and being brought to this body to kind of vet out, discuss, create resolutions, and move it forward to actually make change here in the city of Atlanta. I wanted to go, I know Mr. Bill, he started out in fire, and we don't often talk about fire because it seems like everybody comes and always jump over into public safety, but I wanted to go over some of the issues that you brought up, Mr. Bill, for Atlanta Fire Rescue.
Yes. You want me to fill in more, or are you familiar with some of these issues?
I've heard some of the issues, but definitely if you have any other specific ones so that we can put it on the agenda, because we had a lot of stuff that was in regards to public safety, and I'll put it up on the screen. What we've covered in the previous. Let me share the screen with you.
Well, the staffing is such that many times when it's already, and I don't know what the numbers are, but just to throw out numbers, say for instance, if an apparatus, truck, engine, whatever, is supposed to have 4 people, they might be able to get to operate with 3. If it gets down to 2, they have to go out of service, whatever those numbers are. Could be 5 starting out or whatever. But, someone calls in sick in the morning, they have to go out of service because they're already short staffed, and it gets to where it's at a critical point at which they can't even operate. That's happening on a somewhat regular basis. If there's a holiday or something, a number of people call out. I remember over Christmas, I lost count with how many companies went out of service. Now what I am hearing is that in order to try to basically lie to the public and lie to the media that monitors the radio frequency, I don't have evidence of this, but I have been told by a number of firefighters that there are some upper level people that are telling them to call in on the radio as a special detail instead of actually saying company 51 out of service manpower is what they would normally do. But because it's becoming so pervasive, they're having them call in and say special detail. There's also a major problem that we are not replacing apparatuses. And as such, they're getting worn out. Then, in fact, it wasn't but a few weeks ago that Station 1, that's right there about 2 blocks from the Mercedes Stadium, there was no engine because the main engine has been in the shop for an extended period of time. The engine, the reserve engine that's like 20 years old, so 2001, they were in, it had brake problems, so it had to go in the shop, so there was no engine for that area. Then the ladder truck, the ladder doesn't work. So we're in a, I mean, that's critical. And because Atlanta gets so many calls, there's many times that the closest fire station is not the one responding because that particular station, that engine company might actually be on another call. Because I don't know if folks in the room know, you know, they answer all the medical calls too. Most of our engines or they actually refer to them as paramedic engine, whatever, because they respond to any kind of serious medical emergency, car wrecks, heart attacks, somebody going in diabetic coma, etc. So whether it's a fire or other type emergency that they're already on, it's a lot of times it may be the second or third closest station that is responding. And then if that is the second or third closest station that has a ladder truck is responding to an incident that needs that apparatus to rescue somebody, and that apparatus doesn't work, it may be the fourth closest ladder truck, you know, and with Atlanta traffic, that starts becoming a significant issue. So, you know, that's a serious problem in Atlanta, and it's something that can't be resolved very quickly because my understanding right now, they have no apparatus on order. And we got and it's throughout the city that being put in apparatuses that some firefighters have said that they feel are unsafe to be on the road. And I don't know if you remember from a few years ago when there was a fire engine that was engulfed in flames because of some problem that they had, and they were actually coming from the maintenance shop. So that's a serious, I noticed you put response times. That's another serious problem. I was in a meeting probably 6 months ago with the Atlanta DOT, and I knew the answer. I was asking about fire mobility lanes. I know we're not doing that, but I asked to see what the response was from the city, and they talked about this technology that I've heard about decades ago, where traffic signals can be synchronized or have, you know, electronic receivers, and then there are transmitters in the fire and other emergencies. This could also be connected with Grady EMS, etc., where it's a preemptive traffic signaling, which what that does is that gives them green lights. So they're not having to go through a red light. They're not having to stop at every red light. Not only does it make the response times much greater, it does not put the firefighters' lives at risk as great going through a green light versus a red light. It doesn't put the other parties at risk. People that are the victims have a much greater chance of surviving the quicker they get there, especially, you know, you get heart attack, stroke patients, etc. And so there's all those things, and all those are the right reasons. And then even if you don't want to look at it for the right reasons, you're reducing the amount of liability that the city has with lawsuits and with these apparatus. Some of these apparatuses cost as much as $1.5 million. So they get in a wreck, we're out, not only are we out an apparatus that's needed for public safety, but then also we're out a lot of money. At that meeting, they are doing that, but it's kind of a haphazard, if they happen to be doing a project and they're putting in the newer traffic signals, they go ahead and, put it with this, with, these newer type control systems. So there is no rhyme or reason as far as getting the city implemented. But if there were no current signals that have already been converted, there are 930 traffic signals, what I was told. It costs $7,500 per signal, which comes out to $6,975,000 if there were no signals already done. Less than $7 million is not much money for a department and a city the size of Atlanta, especially considering that we continue to grow, we continue to add high rise, we continue to, in the last 10 years, we've added 100,000 more people, and we're not adding any more fire stations. In fact, we have fewer fire stations and fewer apparatuses than we had in years past because they have closed down stations. Stations that also removes apparatus and manpower.
So I've kind of covered the gist of what you're saying, and I definitely want to dive in further into fire rescue. And it sounds like you have a plethora of information and resources around that. I definitely want to get your contact information as we try to create a group around fire rescue and those issues that you named. And I also will reach out to fire rescue to try to get some responses to, to make better connectivity around some of the issues that you brought up. So I definitely want to thank you for your adding on, and I've added that to the fire rescue line here to make sure that we keep it on our rolling agenda. I want to go to Mr. Ross.
Yeah, Chris, you were asking about additional agenda items, and of course, I wanted to follow up on an action item that this committee had as far as providing resources to the MPUs regarding evictions and rent support and that kind of thing. I see you have it on the agenda though, and yeah. I hope we have time to get to it.
Yeah. Gotcha. Ms. Porter.
Yes, hello. Thanks, Mr. Brown. Being my first meeting, I didn't realize that you just took public, information or comments. So I have a question or, think it could be interesting. We've heard that, 7 out of 10 vehicles that are stolen with the keys inside or running or what have you. I'm just wondering if more can be done for the public to get a hold of some of the information from the police. I know they're now giving out statistics about how many cars are stolen, and could we get more statistics about cars that are stolen with the keys inside? And for example, if they have guns inside, and if these cars are owned by people who live in that same police zone, to know, are these food delivery people who are, coming into a neighborhood and just not being safe? So if we knew this kind of thing, maybe we could reach out to those companies who deliver, or are they really residents of the zone who are, not being responsible? And I say this because, with the instances of more violent crime that's happening in the city, some of these incidents could probably be avoided if we could decrease that number from 7 out of 10 keys left in cars or running or what have you. I know there was very recently, maybe last week, a little girl who was left in a car in this situation and ended up, dragged to her death, but it started because her family left the car running while she was still inside. Or there's a pretty high profile incident that happened across from Piedmont Hospital in the last few months, which was a shooting, but the car was left running with the keys inside while someone went into a dry cleaner. So I'm just thinking that some of the even more aggressive, aggravated crimes might be able to be prevented if we could lower that number from 7 out of 10 vehicles. And maybe we could do that if we have a better understanding of, is this happening because residents of a certain zone are acting in that manner, or are these really Amazon or car delivery, food delivery, or who are the people who are doing this?
What MPU are you with?
I'm with MPUW
Okay.
on the east side.
So what I would do, I know they do come out with the biweekly report, and I'll make sure that you get a copy of that. Make sure that you go to safeatlanta.org, or you can drop your information in the chat or direct message your information. I'll make sure that you get that. We try to keep it on the website. We try to keep it up to date. There's so much information out here, but definitely we want to try to find out, see if we can do a deeper dive in terms of some of the crimes opportunity that you mentioned. And you wanted that citywide.
Yeah, I mean, the police are now in the last month or so giving us information about how many cars are stolen and how many keys are left inside. But can we get even more data? And I know that's asking a lot of the police because they're helping us in this manner already. But if we could know who these people are who are doing it, maybe we could find opportunities to say, oh, this group looks like they're doing this more than another. Can we talk to food delivery companies if that's even an issue? But yeah.
And I mentioned right before we started going into this Q&A session about the subcommittee. And part of the and if you go to the website, it's like right at the top. In the subcommittee, you will see that there's a police advisory council that we're proposing. And so in that council is kind of where you have more of these types of conversation that's kind of more specific, where we can get this information. So it sounds like if you would be willing to want to be a part of that, we definitely want to engage you as we get more information and kind of build capacity here in the committee.
Okay. I'll get my information.
Sure. Thank you. Ms. Blunt.
Hi. So I have a question for you. The pre-arrest diversion, is that something that you all are working on, or is that something that was, that's you're looking forward to working on?
So with pre-arrest diversion, pre-arrest diversion has been around for a couple of years now, and this year they've expanded. They're doing a rollout in zones 4, 5, and 6. They was just awarded $1.9 million to kind of help expand those efforts. And as we look at how we do police reform around the city, they're looking more into that non-emergency alternative policing type of model as services as an alternative. So they currently exist now. Like I said, they're doing the rollout in zones 4, 5, and 6. And if you go to the website as well, you'll see there's a section on there for pre-arrest diversion, and it has a couple of videos that's on there. So definitely check that out. But no, it's something that it's an ongoing piece with pre-arrest diversion. They're looking to try to help incentivize, more zones and more officers to utilize pre-arrest diversion for those nonviolent offenses that can be diverted. So that's kind of where we are with pre-arrest diversion. So I'd be happy again to give you more information, but if you check the website out, some of that stuff is there, some couple of videos, any other information around pre-arrest diversion.
Okay. So yeah, I would definitely like that, because I just put it in your chat. We have our famous Angela Dalton. She's been arrested for over 83 times, and we can't seem to get the prosecutor office to help to keep her from the neighborhood. She's been banned. She didn't go through a program. We found out that she was supposed to go through a program a couple of years ago. No one followed up with her to go through the program, and she's back over here again. And so it's just been a really ongoing issue with this one person in the neighborhood. So I just wanted to kind of find out, like, what is that about, and what is the services for people, and what we need to do to kind of, because by the time she's arrested, the judges had already released her. And, it's like, okay, she's already back in the neighborhood again, so I would like to find out more about that. Yeah.
You definitely drop your information in and make sure I have that. And I can also get you the information to that office as well directly.
Okay.
And anything else you need for us to do here in terms of expansion, because that is one of our agenda items, and kind of keep abreast of what's going on with that piece. But that sounds very interesting, the number of times
Oh yeah, she's a firebug too. So we definitely been trying to get her, you know, some services.
Yeah. Ms. Brinkley.
Yes, this is my first meeting with y'all, and I know you have an agenda you're trying to stick to. So, first of all, I have to say I really appreciate the gentleman talking about fire rescue, and I'll put my information in. If there's something any of us can do to help publicize this issue without getting somebody at the department fired, then I'm a great neighborhood busybody, and I'm happy to help with that, because that's really concerning for all of us. I did, when I introduced myself, I talked about wanting to get ShotSpotter funded. I live in Peoplestown, next door to DH Stanton Park. There's an elementary school nearby. We get so many gunshots over here that we play a neighborhood Facebook game that is called Gunshots or Fireworks. And it's funny until you go outside and you're gardening and you see you have 2 bullet holes embedded in the back of your house, which I have. It went through the hardy plank siding and then embedded itself in the concrete. And that there are so many gunshots over here that we don't even call 911 anymore, because we know they will ask us where are the shots coming from, and we don't know. So I know that in addition to the funding issue with fire and rescue that was brought up and is certainly urgent, that we've been told that we can't have ShotSpotter just because of funding. So, I think it's a really big safety issue that is a concern over here, and has been. I've been over here for about 10 years. And when there are gunshots, it's over near the Beltline and coming from DH Stanton Park area, often at night. And you just kind of sit here and hope that it doesn't come through the window, that it hits the wall. So if we had ShotSpotter, at least there would be some sense that the neighbors know that something is being done about it. It's really scary to hear gunshots at night and know that a bullet could come through my window next time and not just be embedded in the wall of my house.
What police zone is that?
It's 3, I believe.
Okay. And it's part of the same pieces, and so it sounds like we need to go ahead and expedite the subcommittee, because that's one of the places that will kind of lie in terms of how to get more direct contact with your zone. Staff there to try to help address those immediate needs. I'm sure you probably go to your NPU meetings, but we try to bring it to a greater platform and try to pick it up so that we can come up with some form of resolution from this body.
I mean, I understand that there's really nothing the police can do if I call them at, midnight and say, I just heard 6 gunshots, and that's all I can tell them. I don't know where the shots were fired. I don't know how they can get to the people that fired them. I don't know if anybody died or if it was just celebratory gunfire. So eventually you just stop calling because you don't have any useful information to add. Yeah. And they will always ask you, well, do you know where the shots were fired? No, I don't. It just echoes off of the Beltline hill behind the house. And I just hope that nobody was dead. So that's my 2 cents worth. I know that it's not on your agenda, and but I appreciate the chance to just speak out because I know a lot of people are concerned.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And so if you put your contact information, if you DM it to me, or you go to the website and go to the contact desk and fill out that form, we'll make sure that we try to. So again, that's the whole reason for we trying to create the public safety subcommittee. Because we know I will do that. Thank you. And can you tell me is the website listed on I followed a link from Facebook to get into this Zoom meeting. So it's safeatlanta.org.
I will put my information in there then. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. And so I can go back, if we don't have any other questions, I can go back to the top of this agenda. I try to do something a little different to make it more engaging, as we do have people that come in that may be different from time to time or may miss the previous meeting. But I want to take this opportunity to get more issues and more feedback from the community so that we can start addressing and seeing similarities in terms of issues, because we often report out. But we also need the engagement of constituents, you know what I mean, from around the city to be represented, one, in the MPU, and two, to make sure that we have capacity within the MPU to have more capacity in APAB. Terry, go ahead.
Yeah, Chris, I just had a couple of things for Ms. Porter. The Atlanta Police Department has had a clean car campaign for about approximately the last 5 years, in which they ask residents not to leave anything of value in the car, and of course that would include the keys to the car. There has been somewhat of a de-emphasis on that, and so resurrecting that and getting the word out that it's all about a clean car campaign within the city of Atlanta, I think would be very helpful. And it actually relates also to what the last woman, Ms. Brinkley, was sharing about the gunshots. Atlanta police has told us that a lot of times when cars are broken into and cars are stolen, the perpetrators find firearms in the cars. And the numerous gunshots that we hear at night are folks testing out their newly found guns that they've come upon in stolen cars and that kind of thing. And so that the Clean Car campaign and just making residents aware, because so many folks have moved here in the past 5 years that didn't get the information or didn't get informed that Atlanta is a clean car campaign zone. And so resurrecting that program, I think would help tremendously.
Yeah, Mr.
Yes.
I've lived south of the I-20 for 20 years. And so the Clean Car campaign's been around for 15 or more. I mean, it's,
okay.
But I do think that not only in a way, I think it's still around, but it needs to be enhanced and brought, more globally around the city.
Yeah.
So I think it's much older than 5 years, but I think that it could, there could be more action items, let's say, in it.
Sure. Well, the MPUs interact with the majors of each of the zones, and so Chris, we can certainly get that to the majors in each zone that needs to be resurrected or reemphasized again, which I'm sure they're fully aware of anyway. So.
And we added to some of the things that we're doing. So just to kind of jump over to what Terry that we talked about was a resolution that we passed at the end of the close of the year, which is about the eviction resolution. And in that eviction resolution, they have extended the moratoriums on it. But what we found was that there was money that was allocated. Stop here. There was money that had been allocated towards eviction and those people who was facing eviction. But we found there was lack of connectivity within people that's actually filing for this money. And whether it was lack of education on, if they was actually eligible, the fear of different myths. But it's, even some of the nonprofits said that they received more calls from outside non-residents than they got from the inside. And so what we've been doing, and I'm waiting Terry, on a vendor, we found a vendor that could possibly handle all of the things that were suggested from the community. What we found is that a lot of different MPUs use posters, yard signs, robocalls, and different ways to engage the community in terms of educating those residents. This Clean Car campaign seems like something that we can partner on as community and APD to collaborate on as we go and try to roll out some of these things. Also be resourceful as they have resources as well, that may can help us also go with this engagement. So I want to definitely vet that one out in terms of that enhancement in this new rollout of the APD Clean Car campaign, as we also put out information around public safety and some of the things that we're doing here at APAB.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, and one other thing I wanted to share with Ms. Brinkley is that you can't stop calling the shots in. APD actually, they divide their resources based upon call volume and those kind of things. And so if you guys stop calling it in, they'll think things have calmed down. You certainly want to call it in anytime and every time there's something gone awry in your community. Otherwise, it can cost you in the long run.
Great point.
No.
So yeah, also last week we talked about the reinstatement of the 2 officers that was involved, that you may have seen in the AJC, in the one that was done with students in the AUC in the Rashard Brooks case. Just an update to that. Just recently this week, the Attorney General actually returned those cases to the VA here in Fulton County. So just an update to what we talked about last week in terms of that situation, which probes us to try to get a better understanding on how cases will be handled within the VA office in the city of Atlanta in terms of police-involved incidents. Somebody called me and said that ACRB was also involved in being the recommendation to that. I'm not sure, I haven't been able to factualize that, but that's a conversation that we're going to look at as we talk about the Atlanta Citizen Review Board and how cases are, in terms of police involvement, are handled. So that's something that, is interesting, because I think there was like 19 cases that were said to be outstanding. So I just wanted to give an update on that. I jumped down to this water board conversation, and that's been an ongoing conversation in the city of Atlanta as we see crime increase and crimes of opportunity. We may have seen in the news last week that there was a shooting out at Camp Creek at the marketplace, where a number of teens have been known to congregate. Last week, the city of East Point enacted a curfew. The question is going to be, we wasn't sure if the city of Atlanta was going to enact a curfew. What are we doing around minors and juvenile justice here in the city of Atlanta? As we know, the water board conversations, I've seen somebody sent something to me, ATL Scoop, where there was a number of cases that were cited, actually videos. They showed a number of different things that was going on around public safety, but that was one that we definitely seen, and some of the water boards were seen throwing bottles and having just interactions. And we know that there have been cases around that. But it also lends us to also try to look at, as we talk about the reforms in criminal justice, what type of programming and things are around and are available for these teams. And that also kind of extends out a reach out to Atlanta Public Schools. Ms. Baldwin is here. Do you have any insight on anything that APS may be doing, or maybe in talks of doing, in terms of programming? We know a lot of the kids that are out. Some of the conversation that was raised was concerns around COVID, and so we was thinking that it would die down during the winter time, but I guess with the fluctuation of weather and it's just fluctuating, just trying to make sure that we're able to support it as a community in terms of how we support these youth in the community and what type of programming that may become available. If you're on with us, Ms. Baldwin.
I don't have any specific information to share right now. I do know that they're talking about summer programming right now, but I don't have anything specific to what Atlanta Public Schools may be doing outside of school. I could inquire about that and get back to you because I don't have any specific information on that right now.
Thank you. And so for those who was here that we went through the legislation from last week, the city of Atlanta has identified to want to extend services to Atlanta Public Schools and identifying and earmarking money for mental health services and extending different services around that. So as we move forward, we should have information in the upcoming weeks as per the legislation, they was to come back within 30 days of identifying a agent who's going to help conduct this feasibility study. So that's one thing that I want to add to make sure that we look at specifically on how we make better connectivity within that, in what their thoughts were about how we support the youth in Atlanta Public Schools. 86. Is that you, Steve?
It is. I got a question.
Sir.
It's a long, involved question. Besides me, are there any other criminals at this committee meeting? Anybody from the schools? Anybody, any students, any ex-students? Any gang people? Why are we ostracizing them and not including them in our discussions? That's my long question.
It's a great piece. What I will say is that I know that, and I will extend this to Kiana, Ms. Jones, who is also our education chair for APAB. And I know in our executive meeting, they was just talking about establishing a council for students and student involvement and engagement in communities. And so that would extend this platform as well to them as well. So I want to follow up and invite her to our meeting next week, and so that she can present the thoughts about creating this student council in the MPUs. It was specifically earmarked for the MPUs and student engagement. So maybe maybe something that we can talk about, Steve, in our APAB meeting as well, on how we do better engagement and getting stakeholders. And now I don't know how many actually want to come. Maybe former criminals. I don't know how many people would incriminate themselves, but hey, it's worth the engagement. So I'm with you on that, and I got that in my notes. That if we can make sure also if you reach out to Ms. Jones, Steve, on that as well to get more information. Ms. Ramirez.
Hey, Chris, how are you doing?
I'm doing great.
That's great. You look great. Hey, everyone. So I'd be willing to bring some criminals. I have friends in high and low places. I think that Steve points out a very great deal, instead of pursuing a certain group, we should hear everybody's opinion. Sometimes we may look a certain way due to what we have on, or just simply because of the way we carry ourselves, because of the situations and regions we're placed to live in. We can't fight mom and dad if we can't fight where we grew up in, but it makes us who we are. So I think that he brings a very great point. Of course, there's good and bad people out there. It doesn't matter what race. But the reality is we need to be able to include everybody in a decision. Of course, this is why it's an open discussion, and you guys make it open for anybody to join. So I really want to thank you for that. But to that, yeah, I would love to incorporate different individuals to the conversation instead of setting something out there to target a certain group and not including their side of the story. To a story, there's always three sides: the truth, the lie, and the actual story. So your opinion, my opinion, and then what actually happens. So with that, is there a link to what the young lady was talking about that you mentioned for APS?
So I'm gonna find out, and that's what I'm gonna reach out to her. We spoke briefly at our meeting on Sunday, so I just know that was in the works.
Okay.
I would definitely invite her to this platform for next week to report out on that, and any information that we received. I also make sure that we post it on the website as well, because again, those are great points. There's a particular MPU, well, in my MPU, in a particular community, and I tell them and try to support our elders. They want us to do a cleanup, and we know that even with cleanups, that kind of deters crime. The stats show that, but they was less compelled to want to go out and reach out to all the neighbors, because there's this whole separation between renters and homeowners. There's a separation between the young folks and the older folks, and so I offer to help and bring in resources to make sure that we reach out to all neighbors. So to your point, they love the idea of how we did engagement, even to how when we go out to give this communication out on how we ask you to just put a balloon on the day we do the cleanup on your mailbox, just to show your support. So even those people who they may have deemed as a problem, wanting to support or wanting to be involved, it would sit on that piece on how to slowly get those people involved on some things that we may push back from ultimately. Because again, I think it's meant to be more restorative than it is to be punitive.
I'm pretty sure you and everybody else is informed about the pipeline there is between school and the legal system. So if we as a community can pinpoint what is lacking in our youth like you said, the resources that you're trying to offer as a collective to our youth, maybe we could crack down on a few things that maybe escalate when they get a little older. So I'm very interested in this.
And so the topic was about the water boys, and so that may be another piece too that I'm gonna reach out, because there's a couple kids that's out there that actually was in the school system that I know personally, and some of their friends, and so I want to make sure I bring that too. So as we address the water board issue, and I know that the mayor, I believe, allocated money, and a number of city council members allocated money, maybe to a nonprofit or to a group. To address it. And we also have things like the Promise Center and the Boys and Girls Club and the YMCA. So it's like going out to grab all those stakeholders to kind of bring it to the table to see how do we address those issues.
So I think, I mentioned my platform. I help by, putting out different stories in the communities. I did interview Mika Plus. She is the mother that's starting the banning of water sale here in Atlanta because of Jelani dying, her son. I also am very tight and familiar with the Water Boys. They have a business, the actual Water Boys. They have a business going on that's legitimate. I'm familiar with them, their production team. So if we can bring them onto the show or onto the platform, let me know. I'll hook it up.
Definitely. Let's make sure we talk offline. I see my information in the chat, or see your information, I'll reach out and we'll set it up.
Hey, can I jump in real quick? I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh, you good.
Did you guys know about the water boys supposed to have something with the public works water something? They're supposed to bring them in to help them learn how to bottle the water or something. That was on Frank Ski's show a couple of days ago.
No, I did not hit up on that, but I'll go ahead.
So they just talked about that. One of the council persons, it might be Antonio Brown who's doing it. But the council person is doing something with the water, City of Atlanta watershed, whatever it is, trying to bring them in and teach them. But it's also like a resource to teach them a job, how to work, and then you can bottle your own water and sell it or whatever. So it's something like that they were talking about. Also, Frank Ski brought up a very good point. I've been saying this for a long time, that we should pay them to go to school, right? And I was like, wow, I've been saying that. It's not to pay them to go, but it's like almost like you're a trade. So you have to keep, you have to stay in school, you go and learn a new trade, and you get paid. So you have to be in school, but you get paid to go learn this new trade, because if you don't know how to work or you don't have anyone around you going to show you how to have a job, then you don't understand why it's important to have a job, So if we don't teach them that, then they don't know that, So that's something to think about too. So I just brought that up to you guys. Thanks.
I love that. Love that.
Thank you, Melanie, for sure. And so I got a call from one of the coordinators at the school, because one thing that we brought Georgia Building Trades, and we pre-COVID, right before COVID hit, we were set for the spring of last year to do more like a co-op for job training and higher education. And so in identifying career paths, I have a mentee now. He's a freshman in Morehouse, and it's crazy because we just talked just as recently as today, and he was telling me his major, and but he never even thought about, like, I said, well, how much do they make? He didn't know. He wanted to be a psychologist, a sports psychologist, and when I asked, like, well, what is the salary ranges? And those are the opportunities that I use personally. I know that some of these kids because they're interested in money. That's their motivator, whether it's immediate money now, or using the opportunities for the situation that they may have at home. We have to take time to be able to find out a process to engage these youth. They have solutions. They want to be empowered and not just remember being young, and they say that the kids have a voice. But if we don't empower them to have a voice for real, and actually listen to them, give them some ideas, they're going to drive a lot of these solutions. So I'm very excited about that piece. I'm very excited, Melody, about it was just on Frank Ski, that it's still alive and people are thinking about solutions and trying to be creative outside the box. That's what's going to deter crime and actually get these numbers down. That's why this body is created, so that we can think outside the box. We don't have to always be the person, but we want to find feasible solutions out of this committee that we can actually move on and support. So I want to thank all you people, all the people that came and gave their input about, how we can make this a little bit better.
It's interesting that you talk about, giving kids some incentive to stay in school, because, they're too young to understand necessarily the long-term importance of being in school. But there's a group that started here in Peoplestown that called the Wonder Dogs that Grace Hamlin started, where there were a lot of latchkey kids that just used to hang out with her, and she got them interested in helping her rescue animals and stuff. But one of the things that happened with that group is that when the public got involved, they started giving these kids experiences to reward them for their involvement, like a trip up to somebody's horse ranch for a weekend, or to somebody's, private swimming pool, and tickets to go to Six Flags. And so the kids were being given an incentive to do well in school and stay with this program that really made it fun for them. The long-term benefit to the kids will be that they are in school, but to a kid, it's great because they're getting invited to go ride horses at somebody's ranch. So it's not that it's, a payment, which a lot of people would probably say, oh, you don't have to pay the kids to be in school. But it is a payment. It's like people volunteering experiences and transportation to these kids to do things that they would never otherwise get to do as a reward for their participation. So I'm just throwing that as an example of something that, kids that are at risk of leaving school, there might be other ways to reward them for staying with it. It's just, there's COVID just complicates everything.
Susan?
Yeah.
Hey, nice to meet you. So
Nice to
you
meet
said
you.
something initially. I think that program is amazing. I'll actually look it up. You said it's Dog Watch
It's
or
called
Dog
Wonder Dogs.
Wonder?
W hyphen underdogs. And it started with Grace Hamlin. She's a woman that was a veteran. She was living over here in Peoplestown. And just a lot of kids that she would see that didn't have anybody at home. And there were a lot of little kids. They would get beaten up by the people at the bus stop and didn't really have any adult to hang out with because their parents were working or whatever. And they just started hanging out with Grace, and Grace's interest was rescuing animals. And she gets these kids rescuing animals with her. And the next thing you know, the kids are being taught how to train animals, how to get like a pit bull that they rescued from the streets and train it so it's adoptable. A lot of people got involved, I think, because of the appeal of the animals, but she always says she's really about rescuing kids by teaching them the power of their kindness.
That's
The
beautiful.
kids,
Susan.
the kids rescue dogs and cats and train them and work, and people then offer them, oh, I've got a horse ranch and I want to take your kids on my van to go up to the horse ranch this weekend. So the kids, one of the ways they stay in the group is by staying in school and keeping their grades up. And it's become a really big program, but I'm throwing that out as an example of things that are made really fun for these children. A lot of the children have grown into like young people that have graduated from high school now. And Grace has been like the main adult in their lives. But look up Wonder Dogs.
So Susan, I looked it up. It's I put in the chat, w-underdogs.org.
And her name is Grace Hamlin, and she's on Facebook. But the kids,
I think that's amazing. But I did recall you said something initially that the kids, the children, they tend to forget the importance of education, and sometimes it is that. Most times it's just due to gentrification. They're pushed in different areas, like the poorer areas of other neighborhoods, and then they're having to help single mom at times, most times, pay bills. So then all they know is the hustle. Trust me, I understand that. I'm a self-entrepreneur. I get it. I've been there, done that. And then, like you mentioned, and Chris mentioned, and Steve mentioned, and the other young lady that commented, We have to teach them what their purpose is. What do you like to do? And then teach them how to start an LLC, get an EIN, open up a bank account, do it the proper way, help the system so it can grow and help your own business grow. But it's not the lack that they don't know the importance of education. It's just sometimes paying a light bill and helping mom keep the light bill on because they're pushed out into the poor neighborhoods is more essential than to actually going to school. Trust me,
Oh,
I understand.
absolutely. That's one thing that Grace has talked about is that, you know, these kids are, a lot of them are one of the adults in their home, even as a child, and they're trying to help pay bills, and they see an opportunity to make a quick buck, you know, with a crime, or to think more long term. And so she's kind of, she's turning Wonder Dogs into trying to establish job skills, people volunteering to come in and do train the kids to do things like programming, writing code. It's really turned into something big, but these kids are limited to whether or not they're in walking distance of where that center is. So it would be great if there was something like that everywhere. She had to leave Peoplestown and she moved into Lakewood because she lost her rental over here. So a lot of the kids that were part of the organization probably didn't get to follow her over there because they don't have their own transportation. But yeah, it's a really good model, I think, for something that grew from kids wanting an adult to hang out with that gave them a lot of attention and taught them that they had the power just to feel better about themselves by being kind to a dog or cat, to kids learning job skills and maybe thinking about going to veterinary school, and or just learning how to be a dog trainer. So yeah, it's but I really I appreciate that y'all are here representing for people that aren't necessarily coming to meetings like this.
So what I hear is a lot of opportunities, and that we get a chance to follow up, which is on interventions. So even as we talk about some of the crimes and things that have happened, we have opportunities to do intervention with the system, with the city and with Fulton County, and with APS. We talk about more along the lines of project-based learning. And as we talk about project-based learning and moving into that direction and what that looks like, we have to bring up, the times that we're in, which is about COVID. And so, there's a lot of things that I've shared, left it on that site, but some things that we have a responsibility to do as a community, which is there's a document that came from the federal government, the CDC, which is the community response for mitigating a pandemic, a pre-pandemic. Everything that we went through, from the closing of the schools to how we operate and returning, is all covered in this guideline. Right now, we know, especially in underserved communities, that the policies in terms of enforcement, we know that there's a mask law out and you want people to wear masks, but they're so subjective, with the lack of enforcement and the lack of oversight in certain communities, we have to kind of look at what we're doing in our older population. So even if we talk about the water boys piece, I don't want to stay under too much, but them running up to cars, and making that direct contact, whether it's from them themselves to the person that's in the car or vice versa. And then they have the transmission rate. And we know that this stuff is going up. And man, we start talking about the amount of people that I know, that people who are losing whole families. I'm talking about mom and daddy, grandmama, uncle, we have to kind of address this in some way. And I think that we kind of took a hands-off approach to it. And I think because it became more political. But as a community, we have to address this because it's actually defined by the federal government from the community end of it. So I want to make sure that we caution, that we have to look at also the opportunities that exist, but we also know when Big Brother's in the room, which is COVID, that kind of decreases that opportunity, or at least how we do it. And we know that some of these kids don't have technology. We know they may not have internet access. We know that the parents may need the same internet access, job training, things moving more to virtual, and how we better serve these people, But we have to look at how we do it from a community level. We too often look at the people and the officials to make those decisions for us. And again, that's why we're here, Not, you know what I mean, most of the talent comes from the community. Even our elected officials still come from the community.
Mhm.
So let's utilize that talent pool that we have right here and use this as an opportunity. It's 7:11 p.m. Try to keep it at an hour or so. But we're definitely here to go on. Like I said, this is something different that we did this week. It's kind of getting more input from the people that come to the meeting on how to drive resources, how to take priority, and how to prioritize, and how to make better connectivity to be a community, one community. Anybody got anything else? Well, let me go back to the agenda real quick before I move too fast. I think I've showed it. Like I said, we've kind of covered so many different things. That's why I wanted to stab at the COVID piece and the water boys and some of the takeaways. I want to bring up something that Steve talked about last week that we discussed, which is about mediation and dispute resolution. There's some creative things that's being discussed around that piece on how we utilize it in the community and how we also able to utilize it. Maybe as a point of intervention or non-emergency response in the community, whether it's with the youth or with some of the people that's in the community. That's a touch item to be able to go into other resources or providing resources. So Steve Carr came up with that piece. We also talked about public safety in the town hall. You know, as we compile all these issues and these action items and we start to do it, we want to make people aware of what's going on and how we better serve some of the things that we're doing and the work that's being done. So actually looking in the near future to doing a town hall and what it could possibly look like. And that's just this on a bigger scale, just more engaging. It's 7:12 of the ACRB, we covered that, use of force. I just want to take the next 60 seconds just to kind of go over these pieces because we did kind of put in categories like senior services, you know what I mean? We had health services and wellness checks, senior food services and grocery, financial assistance and prescriptions, housing and job training. We talked about evictions and homelessness, free online training, work from home jobs and utility assistance. We talked about finance and small business. We know a lot of people in the SBA loans and stimulus and grants and procurement opportunities and PPP loan. We talked about parent and youth services and the food program that we do, and that a number of churches and other nonprofit organizations do across the city, and even elected officials in terms of the food program and providing free food to communities. Identifying technology needs, tutoring and virtual engagement. So that's a big piece of the big sector and how we do more around tutoring, and this is for parents and the youth and virtual engagement. Government assistance programs, school services and summer programs. Last but not least, social engagement and entertainment, because a lot of this stuff is just like work. But we talk about tapping into some of our influencers, people that we use, and some of these kids and people that look up to. Different activities like IG live events and give backs, something that we can do socially that's not as formal as this, but something that's a little bit more engaging. Finding more outlets, wellness and workouts, identifying those essential places that are essential for people, because everybody know, even when we do address this COVID situation, nobody really likes to be bottled up in the house. We've seen an increase in mental health issues and domestic violence, but identifying those places that are essential that people can utilize this for wellness and workouts. Urban farming, always education on voting and census information. You know what I mean? Some people are still inquiring about their civic engagement and how they just got involved in the whole process in voting in the census, but actually doing continued education after all this over with, because it's never really over. And then different teen initiatives, you know what I mean? And I think that's what we just talked about, was a lot of different teen initiatives on how to utilize and engage these youth to be a part of it. You know what I mean? Even in civic engagement and doing this work, because we're not going to be doing this for forever. They are the now and they're the future. So I just definitely want to thank everybody for coming by and sharing information and spreading information. I want to take the next maybe 5 minutes, that'll put us at 7:20. If anybody have any other needs, concerns, issues to add to the agenda, or things that you may want to see on next week or the upcoming weeks, if you hadn't seen anything. I think we captured a lot here, and we definitely have some takeaways. But anybody, I see Mr. Bell with your hand raised.
Yeah, what happens after information is discussed in this committee meeting? How does that move forward to get into our leadership in the city?
So Depending on the issue, we will either form a resolution to give a resolution to the city. But the bigger part here in terms of our next steps is doing this advisory piece, and like the one that you talked about, which is about fire safety. We probably need to create a focus group around it. That's why I said I want to talk to you offline and to find out. I want to, one, get more information on it, and two, find out pull a group of people who may be interested in some of the same topics, and to pull that group together to engage and to develop a resolution, or to find out with the facts and what some form of resolution to those issues. So that'll be the next step. So definitely, Mr. Bill, if you hadn't already, but make sure you just give me the information as I want to make sure that, because we talk about a lot of public safety in terms of policing and criminal justice stuff. We don't really talk a lot about fire safety. You know what I mean? And their part of this as well as corrections and EMS. So I definitely follow with you offline in terms of our next course of actions on how we can address some of the issues that you've raised. Mr. Carr.
I want to help answer the question from the person that asked about what's next as far as how do we get our information to the quote unquote leadership. We don't have much leadership in this city, and also we have a problem, a huge problem, and this goes on many, many years, and it's not just in Atlanta, it's all over the world, is that there's a political culture that people in decision-making capabilities and influence do not want to listen to residents and cities and communities and NPUs and APABs and so forth. But one of our alternatives is it's better to do it this way. And then a couple of other things. Mentor, bring other people into the process. And the process is, of course, part of the process is this committee. And another is there are certain individuals in leadership, quote unquote, capacity, such as Antonio Brown. He is a willing ear. Call him up or email him. Say, Antonio, we're discussing this and this. Now, there are other people that's interested in crime. That's a big issue coming out of Buckhead. We're going into a municipal election. It's a hot issue. We got a perfect storm to act, a perfect storm to come up with policy suggestions, and a perfect storm to speak out. And people are a lot more interested in hearing what we have to say now than a day after the election. All right. Memorize all that because we're going to have a quiz on it next week.
Thank you, Steve. Ms. Porter.
Mine's real fast. Is it the same Zoom link next week, or I sent you my info? So if not, you can.
Yes, ma'am. So what I did, and when you do the contact form, I automatically add you to the email distribution. But that's why I went ahead and made sure that we did a recurring meeting for every week of February so that people can get acclimated to coming. But we meet every second Thursday, but we will meet every week, and I think it is the same link. So
filled out the form, so.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody else? Well, I want to definitely thank everybody for coming out, man. It's always a pleasure as we do more engagement. I think virtualism gave us an opportunity to get to do better engagement and more engagement. I try to do something a little bit more different than just the norm. And your voice does count, you know. And here we try to make sure that we move everybody's issue. I know sometimes we get a lot of people in here, but as you see, there's a running list of things that we try to address and knock out. So just know that, you know what I mean, you haven't, your voices and your concerns are not going among deaf ears even if you come back next month, you know. But if you come in here, definitely let's get involved and let's dig in deep, get some of these policies, come with some solutions. And even if you don't have a solution, there are people here that's been involved for a number of years. And you just never know who may stop in. I think we've been blessed the last few weeks to have elected officials come by the last 3 weeks. Somebody's always dropped in. So your voices are here heard. And, you know, I mean, if there's no further questions, then, you know, next week, same time, 6 o'clock, tell a friend to tell a friend, bring somebody with you, share it with your NPU. That's very, very, very important. And for those people who don't know, you know what I mean, what NPU they're in, reach out, man. I got, you know what I mean, I can show you, and I don't mind showing, because I like to empower people by showing them how to locate this information. Or if you just need to know, I can put you directly in contact with the people who you need to talk to. So if there are no other questions, let's adjourn this meeting. Sounds good. Y'all be safe out there.
Bye, guys. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.